What's going on, everybody? It's Richard Koberger here, the Blue Collar Nerd, and in this video, we're going to be talking about custom financing rules in ServiceTitan. So custom financing rules allows you to set sales thresholds so that certain financing plans can only be used when the customer's spending a certain amount or more. And this is a feature that's been available for a while with GreenSky, but now in the ST52 release, it's going to be available for Service Finance as well. So what is the benefit of this? Why might you want your technicians or your sales team to only offer certain financing plans when the customer is spending certain amounts of money? Because as you probably already know, merchant fees from financing companies, they're all percentage based, so it's going to affect your margin in the same way, right? Well, yes and no. Your gross margin percentage will be affected the exact same way regardless of how much the customer is spending, that's true. But the gross profit dollar amount, that will be different depending on how much the customer is spending, and that's where you might want to make some different decisions about, well, is that worth closing the job to get that amount of money? So let's walk through an example. So let's say we're selling a job for $4,800, and we're selling that at a gross margin of 50%. So that means if we sold the job with no financing fees, then we would have $2,400 in costs and $2,400 in gross profit. Now let's say the only way we're going to close this job is if we offer a financing plan that has a 17% merchant fee. 17% of $4,800 is $816, so that's going to add another $816 to our costs, meaning our costs go from $2,400 to $3,216. So as you can see, that brings our gross profit margin down to 33%, and it brings our gross profit dollars down to $1,584. Now, every company can make their own decisions, but for a lot of companies, that amount of gross profit wouldn't be worth the opportunity cost of booking a job in that slot. So it might just be better to sacrifice the job versus booking it, but having to use that high merchant fee financing plan. Now let's look at the same situation, but this time the job is selling for $18,000. So revenue would be $18,000. And again, we'll say that's at a 50% gross margin. So now that's $9,000 in costs and $9,000 in gross profit. Now again, let's say the only way we're going to close this job is if we use that same plan, the 17% merchant fee financing plan. 17% of $18,000 is $3,060. So we would have to add that onto our costs, now making our costs $12,060. So as you can see, that hurt our margin exactly the same as the previous example. We're down to 33%. But with this example, our gross profit would be $5,940, aka more money than last time. So while margin percentages are very important metrics to keep track of, nobody deposits percentage points into the bank. So if that financing plan is what's going to make or break this job, is it worth paying the fee for $5,940? And that's a decision that everybody has to make on their own. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it isn't, then you can just set the sales threshold on your custom financing rule higher. Maybe it needs to be at least $20,000, maybe $25,000, maybe $30,000. It's entirely up to you. But by utilizing this feature, you're able to set those thresholds and then let the software enforce it for you. So your technicians or your sales team don't have to memorize any rate sheets or rules, and whoever's managing those teams has a little bit less to worry about. It's an excellent way to help ensure that your profits are being protected. So real quick, let's walk through how to set one of these up. So in ServiceTitan, you're going to go to Settings and Financing, and then you'll navigate to the Loan Options tab where the custom financing is. There you should see two sections, Default Rule and Custom Rules. Default rule will allow you to set a rule that is universal across your company, but custom rules will allow you to set separate rules for separate business units. So maybe you want different rules for the service department versus the sales department, or different rules for the plumbing division versus the HVAC division. If you do want to break it down by business unit like that, then you would want to add a custom rule. And to do that, you'd click that button right under it that says Add Financing Rule. That'll take you to this initial page where you can set up the details, so give the rule a title and set up what business units it should apply to. So if you were making a rule that was going to apply to your entire plumbing department, then you would probably want to name the rule something like Plumbing Rule. And then you would add all of your plumbing business units under there. Then you'll click Next, and if you're using Service Finance, then you'll be taken to this Improvement Types page. Now this page is specific to Service Finance. You won't see this page if you're using GreenSky, because Service Finance categorizes their loans into these different types, and so you would just select the relevant ones here. Then you'll click Next and you'll be taken to the rate sheet. And this is where you would check off the plans that you want to offer within those business units that we just selected on the previous page. And you can select up to 6. Once you've made your choices, you'll click Next and you'll be taken to this Tiers page. And there you'll be able to choose either default tier or custom tiers. Default tier will allow any of the plans that you chose to be offered on any job that fits within the business units that you've selected for this rule. Whereas custom tiers, that's where we're going to be able to set certain thresholds to only offer certain plans when the customer is spending a certain amount of money. So that's the one we're going to select here, custom tiers. And once you choose that, you can assign the plans to the different tiers. So tier 1 is your most basic tier. That's the plan or multiple plans that you're willing to offer on any job. And then you can hit that add tier button at the bottom to add another tier. And now on that second tier, you'll notice you now have a box to input a spend threshold. So for this example, we'll put in $4,000, and that means that customers who are spending less than $4,000 will not be able to utilize these plans. They'll only see these plans offered to them if they're spending $4,000 or more. And by the way, these little radio buttons next to the plan numbers, those are used to select which plan you want ServiceTitan to use to calculate the as low as price when technicians are presenting on the mobile side and an estimate falls within a certain tier. All right, and then we'll make a third tier and set that threshold to $6,000. And what the heck, we'll make a fourth tier and make that one $8,000. And then we'll click next. You get one more screen just to review everything and make sure you're good with it. And then you would hit finish and you have created your rule. Now on the mobile side, the as low as prices that are shown to the customer on the presentation screen, those are going to be automatically calculated based on these rules and how much the estimate is for. So you can see here the as low as prices, they're all referencing different plans. And that's because it is referencing that rule that we just set up. And you can see in this example that first estimate, which is the lowest priced estimate, actually has the highest monthly payment. And once the customer is ready to move forward and the technician hits apply for financing, somewhere early on in the application process on either the first or second step, depending on whether you're using GreenSky or Service Finance, they will enter in the desired loan amount. And then the system actually won't let them apply for plans where their loan amount does not meet or exceed the necessary threshold. So for Service Finance, it looks like this. They see all the available plans, and the ones that they're not meeting the threshold for are grayed out. They can't select it, and it shows them what the minimum threshold is. Or on GreenSky, they would get this red error message letting them know that they're not meeting the threshold and what that threshold is. So if the customer's like, oh, well, what do I need to do to get that plan? The technician or salesperson has nothing to memorize. It's all laid out right there. There's not a lot of room for accidents here. If they input a number that isn't high enough, it just won't let them move forward. And after that, as usual, a lot of the form will be automatically filled out based on the customer information that is already in ServiceTitan. And they'll just have to fill in some extra things like their date of birth, social, things like that. Now, one little caveat specific to Service Finance that I want to point out. Some loans that Service Finance offers actually already have hard spending limits on them from Service Finance. So in those situations, you can use your own custom financing rules in ServiceTitan to raise that limit. So if Service Finance says, hey, on this plan, the spending limit is $3,000, then you can use a custom rule to say, actually, I'm going to make it $4,000. But you can't go the other way. You can't customize it to be lower than what Service Finance has defaulted it to. So again, if the threshold from Service Finance was $3,000, you couldn't then go and make it $2,000. So this feature is really useful for helping protect your profits, and I highly recommend setting it up if you haven't done so already. Again, if you're using GreenSky, then this is available. It's been available for a while. And if you're using Service Finance, then this will be available starting with ST52. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Be sure to hit like if you liked the video and found it valuable. Be sure to subscribe to ServiceTitan's YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. Hit that bell icon so that YouTube notifies you anytime we upload a new video. Appreciate it. Peace.